welcome to you, Tricia and Rob. We're really excited to talk to you today about digital marketing and the various marketing tactics that these early stage companies can use. As you know, our founders are typically really early stage, so they're just starting to think about perhaps how do I market this product that I've created? What do we need to be thinking about? Knowing that they probably can't hire externally yet, and they need to kind of take in all this knowledge and as a founder really lead the way in their marketing programs. So I'd love for you guys to just introduce yourselves really quickly, talk a little bit about your own background and experience in marketing.
Sure. My name is Tricia Mumby. I'm the direct-to-consumer mentor here at the AC. I just started recently, having a great time working with all of these interesting companies. I co-founded Mabel's Labels, a label company based out of Hamilton, which on the surface looks like a little company that makes labels and puts them in the mail. But as the business grew and grew, it really became a marketing engine. The IT behind it is very complicated. We get labels out the door within 24 hours of a credit card being processed. We developed a large manufacturing facility with a lot of automation. And had a lot of fun. Brought products to retail, certainly sell mostly direct to consumer, and eventually sold the company to Avery Labels in 2016.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rob Farnham. I'm the digital demand lead generation mentor here at the Accelerator Center. Been here 2.5 or 3 years now. I was actually here previously as a co-founder. Came in here, graduated, I'm up on the wall, and I promote products. So I'm good with ads. I'm good with analytics. Tabatha and I were just talking, trying to figure out whether I'm a data geek or I'm an ad geek. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think
a little both. It's fine.
Yeah, so I do both. Right now, I'm just finishing up Black Friday sales, et cetera, which I've been doing with the same 5 or 6 guys for a bunch of years. The numbers are astronomical, and I'm sure that we're going to see that Black Friday was probably the biggest ever. That's my prediction.
Love that.
And I hope that some of our companies, we've had some before, get to that 6-7 figures a day spend like some of we're doing right now. So that's my goal for these guys, is to really get them to figure it out, figure out what channels work for them, figure out the messaging, et cetera, and then scale. And I'm here for the scale.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So let's jump right into marketing tactics and marketing channels. So folks spent some time with Ellen, maybe with Hannah. They've come up with their strategy. They know their messaging. Maybe they've launched their website. They're ready to actively implement some things to get some leads in the pipeline and start selling. I'll often ask you guys to kind of compare D2C to B2B, perhaps, because I know you both have experience in both, and there are some differences. So if I'm a early stage B2B company, where do you guys recommend I start as far as researching tactics and implementing those tactics? Where's kind of your first go-to?
I go to Rob.
Yeah.
I'll let you start there because D2C is my home base.
Yeah, so I actually prefer D2C, but I know we have a lot of B2B companies here. And I have preferred D2C more in the last couple of years, only because if you're selling to a business that closed down during COVID, you lose connection to any customer. If you build a huge group of customers, you're always safe.
Yeah.
You can always get to them. But if I was a B2B company, 2 things that amaze me about the new companies that come in. They have an amazing solution to a problem. Mm-hmm. They just don't know if anybody will pay them for their problem. We have companies in here right now or over the last years where when they finally get their product ready and they go out to their customer, the customer goes, yeah, we don't really care about that. And I think that's a terrible problem, that you need to identify that pain point first and make sure that you've found a pain point that people are willing to pay for.
Yeah.
And the world is littered with great technology companies that created a solution for something that wasn't a problem. So I would go onto Google. I would search every keyword. I would find every competitor. I would actually do the work. I could then use some other tools to go backwards, say, how are they promoting? What are they promoting? For example, if somebody wants to have an appointment with me, I'll pitch myself here a little bit. You can find out what your competitors are running as ads and how long they've been running as ads, which is a pretty good place to start.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Everything's available online now. And I think then you have to talk to your possible customer. Make sure it's a pain point. Make sure the language is the way they want it. Yeah. If it's a bleeding neck wound, they're going to pay you for it. If it's a little scab on their finger, they're not. So I would say the first thing to do is do just a ton of research, not necessarily on your solution, all founders think their solution is perfect. They all do. What they need to do is make sure that there's somebody willing to pay for that solution.
Yeah. And then one of the big differences we find in marketing D2C to B2B is in B2B, often the person with that bleeding neck wound is not the person cutting the check. So understanding who's actually the person with the problem versus who's the person who's actually going to purchase the product, and make sure that as we're looking at these tactics that we're getting to one or both of those individuals through those channels.
And sometimes more than two people. You can have a thing where you're selling to a company and the IT person likes that, and he's going to make that decision, pass it off to the CFO who's going to write the check. But neither one of those two people are going to actually be using the solution. So then you have the end user as well. And we've had cases where people have sold to companies and the development team refuses to use the product even after those two people have said, let's use it. So you need a lot more buy-in. The upside to that is it's a much bigger order.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. And then on the D2C side, do you recommend taking that same approach when you say, I've got a product, I'm ready to sell it? How do you determine what channels to start with? Because maybe it's email, maybe it's social media, maybe it's a content marketing strategy. How do you kind of say, where's the best place to put our early dollars?
I think it is a very similar answer to Rob in a way. One of the things I've been coaching the D2C companies I've been working with is competitive intelligence. I feel like it's not getting enough airtime, and it seems to be news to them.
Yeah.
And they're tempted to go down this unique route, and that they've got a better way, and they think they know where their customers are, and they make their personas and their funnel, build their funnels, and they think that's where they are. But they're not facing the cold, hard facts about exactly who they're competing against. If one of their competitors has been repeating the same tactic over and over and over in the same channel, they're not doing that by mistake.
Yeah.
And so coming to terms with that and realizing which playground you're in and figuring out how to win in that playground, I think is really key. And for some reason, and I actually can relate to this as a founder myself, you don't want to face that. You don't want to face that I haven't actually entirely reinvented a wheel here. You haven't. Typically. So I think that is important. And I do think it's important to just trial and error. That's what finding the channels that work for you. That's what it's about, because it largely depends on your demographic. Maybe your demographic is on TikTok and you should be there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not. And just because you love TikTok and have a flair for it doesn't mean that's going to matter for this business. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting. And that's the beauty of social media. It doesn't actually cost a lot. It takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of guts sometimes to toe dip and put yourself out there and show some personality and brand flavor that may fall flat.
Yeah.
And everyone knows everything's on the internet forever, but just go for it and see what sticks. I don't think you're going to know. And I really encourage them to experiment, because I think it's important to understand every channel, even if it's not the channel for you.
Yeah.
And to just add on to that for a second, I totally agree. Founders think that their solution is unique all the time. And there's two things that when I meet with a brand new company here at the AC, and they're always inspiring with their energy and their optimism and everything. The first question you say is, so who are your competitors? And they say, we don't have any.
No one.
And then you say, how are you going to market your product? Oh, just word of mouth. This thing, once it's built, it'll go field of dreams. If we build it, we will come. Those are the two things that I really have to say. I'm sorry, but I need to kill your dreams right now.
Not.
We need to talk.
Tough love, Rob.
We do need some tough love.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do word of mouth and just it'll go viral. No, it won't.
And there are some examples of that. Like when my business, Mabel's Labels, was new, there literally was not another children's label company. And so we thought we were in that position. We've had no competitors.
Yeah.
And when we went to a trade shows and saw people's reactions face to face, there is nothing like watching customers face to face. And we saw people, I've got a marker, thanks.
Yep.
My husband has an engraver. It never occurred to us that we were up against that the idea that, no, you need to buy this new thing.
I've got a Sharpie.
Yeah, I've got a Sharpie. So we had to start, there's nothing permanent about permanent marker and testing that. Yeah. We didn't use the S word, but we just said permanent marker. And we had to start competing against something that we think of competition as other companies, but really the competition is also the alternative.
Right. The competition is whatever people are doing right now to solve that problem at the end of the day.
And it's a fun problem to solve. Like once you face it, it's you can come up with really interesting, novel, and especially for ads and for content, you can come up with some really fun things, I think.
One more quick tip. Go to Reddit, type in your competitor, and quickly find out what everybody hates about them.
Absolutely.
That way you can say, there's this group of people is looking for a better alternative. Make sure you write down what they don't like about it and make sure that you fix that. And now you are an alternative. And it's worked, as we were just talking about, it's worked pretty well for Coke and Pepsi over the years.
Yeah.
Competitive intelligence is so fun. You can learn so much, and you can also identify gaps. So you can identify these little cracks in the sidewalk that no one's filling.
Shockingly, new companies come in here and they've built a website and they've done all that stuff. They don't have Google Analytics and they're not looking at their Google Analytics. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting this morning and somebody was like, what? I said, you have Google Analytics? This is a 4-year-old company.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
How do you make decisions?
With your heart.
Yeah. I feel that button should be red.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned social media and you've kind of touched on data and throughout this interview, we'll get a little bit more into depth into various types of tactics. So why don't we start with social media and talk about, particularly for D2C companies, social media is a very viable option. Like you mentioned TikTok, if you're, working with a younger audience. How does a company kind of venture into social media marketing from a content perspective? What are some things they need to think about? We all hear it's the algorithm's fault. Let's talk at a really high level about social media marketing and what are some of those things that folks need to know before they venture into social?
Oh my goodness, where to start? I spoke with a company this week actually about they've got a lot of they've got a lot of users. They've got a real company on the go. They've done nothing in social. And I was like, what is happening here? They're just squatting on their names. Well, we don't know where to start. We don't know. Start just by starting. Start by something. Start by posting about who you are. I think it's important to think about the content strategy. And I think I would keep it simple. I'd keep it to 3 or 4 things that you circle around in a month, circle around in a quarter, circle around in the year. And typically that's things that, are viral, trendy, fun. Maybe things that get a lot of likes, things that got a little lift. Things that show that you're paying attention and show your flair. Things that maybe hit on that are really going to move the revenue needle. So things that are going to sell, things that are salesy. And you may find that the traction on those, the likes and the thumbs ups and whatever, are a little less on those. Things that show your company flavor and messages you're trying to get across, or anything else. Like if you're a product company, you probably have some promotional things that you have to fit in there. Like maybe if you're a dog food company, you have to celebrate National Dog Day and all those things and sprinkle all of that around and just keep it churning. Make a calendar. And I think it's less intimidating once you have it laid out and you have your styles determined. Tools like Canva make it really simple to determine your style. Save the fonts you're always going to use. Save the genre of music you're always going to use. Save the color scheme you're always going to use. And just don't let it overwhelm you. Just start. But you must start. I think it's really important. There's only one company I've met in the AC so far where I've said, yeah, don't bother with social. Yeah. I think it's important for companies to show that they're alive. Look alive. There are so many companies that come and go on the internet. If you're interested in something, I personally often just go to their socials and make sure if they haven't posted since May of 2019. Yeah. I am not filling out that contact me form. I don't know what's going on with this company, but they're not for me. So you just start, please.
Yeah.
And I think even B2B companies say, oh, we don't need social. And I just want to say, if you're a B2B company and you have a 3-hour meeting with somebody that introduced you, as soon as you walk out the door, they're going to your social sites.
Yeah.
They really want to check you out. I've had one person say, we don't need social and we don't really need a website. We're going to do it all outbound. The other thing I'm going to say is when you first start social media, every company wants to think they're going to talk about themselves all the time.
Right.
People are coming to social media. Part of it is to be entertained. Mm-hmm. You can't be super serious all the time. And if Billy in the mailroom got a new dog, nobody cares. You want to create a community. And when you're first starting with the community, let's talk about the algorithm. The algorithm is super simple. And most people I know get it wrong. You have 10 followers or you have 100 followers. The algorithm now on everything will show your latest piece of content to between 7 and 10% of that. So if you have 100 people and you put out a piece of content, 7 people are going to see it. The way the algorithm works is, I like to think of it, it's not, but you get a point for a like, you get 2 points for a share, you get 3 points for a comment.
Yeah.
The more engagement you have, including you replying back and you liking their comments, the level of your engagement determines the level of your reach. So the person with 100,000 people can actually get seen by 1 million people because they're such an engaging site.
Yeah.
So if you put out 10 posts in the next 10 days and nobody likes, comments, and shares, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, you both mentioned a word that I think is really important. And when I talk to startups or entrepreneurs of any kind, I say as well as social is really about building community and about building engagement. So if you're not using it to build those things and you're finding that there isn't community around it and you're just using it as a news board, like here's our new blog, this is what we did this week, here's a picture of our product, and folks aren't engaging with it, then it's not serving you from a marketing
That's not
perspective the way
social.
it could. It's not
By
social.
definition.
Yeah.
By definition.
So-
Friday night, you can walk into a bar and there's a group of people sitting there and you can walk over and start telling them who you are.
Yeah.
That won't work very well.
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing that I tell folks that I think is important is that it's maintaining your social is a bit of work and that you should be replying and commenting and sharing, content from people who engage with you to make sure that it is two-way. So it's not just you post it, all your customers and your fans or your followers, whatever platform it is, comes and says, yay, bravo to you, and that's it. It really should be an engagement and opportunity
Well,
to.
it's also a huge opportunity, even in B2B, I'm thinking also, to showcase your partners and show them some love and show some appreciation. And D2C, show off your customers. Like, at Mabel's Labels, we would give a shout out to the, Wisconsin Moms Club that raised $1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows that we were involved with that moms group because we actually care about it. We're proud of moms going out and doing this stuff. Look at them. And those posts would get so much engagement because people like to support people and they like to congratulate people. And you can't make it all about you. And so no matter what business you're in, there are partners, there are employees, there is someone that you can include in your social feeds.
Yeah.
And there's little hacks. I'll tell you about my daughter. My daughter's an amazing human being. She's living out in Bedford, Halifax, Nova Scotia. She's working at a vet clinic. And they said to her, you want to take over our social? And she went, Dad, let's get on the phone and talk about here. So twice a week now, they feature a dog and the dog owner, and they tag the people in it. And guess what that person does?
Repost.
Share
They
with everybody.
repost it and share it everywhere. And all of a sudden, they've gone from 180 to over 5,000.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And it's super engaging, and everybody's talking and meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not brain surgery.
No. And that should be part of the mix. And as you learn, if that works, then you add that to the mix once a week or once a month.
Yeah.
Asking people questions. People just want to be
yes.
involved. Ask a question. You'll get responses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful.
The biggest post I have ever put out has 15,000 comments on it. And it's a picture of toilet paper with the paper coming off the front and toilet paper with the paper coming off the back. And it says, what is right? What's correct?
Controversial topic.
Somebody looked up the U.S. patent.
Oh.
They were serious.
That person has a very passionate opinion about that.
About toilet paper. A couple people were like, I'll go in the bathroom and I'll change it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. This will mean not that post, but from now on, whatever we post there gets so much more engagement. It works. It just works. I'm not suggesting that a SaaS B2B company in here posts toilet paper, but
You see it all the time. You see it like butter tarts, raisins, no raisins. And I think you have to be a little careful not to jump on that trend of
Yes.
question too much.
Yes.
But it's right. Like just be silly, there's there's things people are going to jump in on. Are you ready for the elf on the shelf, in the mom, in the kids world, like all that stuff? Are you ready for packing lunches? All those pain points that your community loves to talk about.
And it makes them feel seen, right? It makes them like, yes, this
And
company
you
gets
have to
my life.
And you have to post in a way that gives them permission to comment. If your tone is incredibly corporate, it needs to be human. You need to be a human asking another human a question. And the last thing I'll say to that is that, especially the new founders, they're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If there's one thing they're going to put off, it's social media. And it's a huge mistake because if you think about it, we have companies in here that hire focus groups. Well, if you were to build your social media following,
World's biggest focus group.
and if you decide to pivot your product a little bit, you put a survey up on your social media, you get those answers. When you run an ad, it's one click going to somewhere and they're gone. You build a social media tribe, they're yours forever. Hotel California.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that and the sense that it's overwhelming. And, I'm a founder of all these things to do. I don't have time to manage social media. One of the things I think folks can do is choose their platforms really carefully. And this idea that if we go into social, we have to be on 7 different platforms. We have to post every day. to keep that up. So let's maybe kind of run through the top ones. What's the best platforms for the best types of companies? We'll start with LinkedIn. Who needs to be on LinkedIn?
Founders.
Nailed it. Right. So founders as individuals. And I always tell people, if you're a B2B company, LinkedIn's probably appropriate for you. If you're a D2C company, do you need a LinkedIn page?
Depends
Maybe,
what your
maybe
goals
not.
are. If you're looking for an acquisition, if you're looking for some partnerships, I think you should be. And I think it's also a really effective way to hire.
Yep.
So I would always be on there.
Yeah. TikTok, because it's a big one right now.
Yes, I love it. TikTok is, I think, got the most potential for new companies for growth.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the fastest one for people to grow on right now because it hasn't been, the growth opportunities haven't been gated yet.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Getting there.
I know,
Not
but
yet.
now I keep telling everyone, get in now.
I know. There's going to be a lot of people in a year and a half that go, I missed it.
Yep.
So
Get on it now. And
Yes.
it's just incredibly powerful. It's fast. The algorithm is so strong. The algorithm is strong in that one. Like it's crazy.
the only thing to the old guy perspective here, I wrote a course that sold very well on how to dominate MySpace. So it doesn't sell so well anymore.
Yeah.
But
Not as relevant.
it's the same thing that seems to happen with every channel, which is when a new channel comes in, people that jump on it really quick get organic reach and engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, it starts getting gated. Over time, it starts getting less and less. And at some point, the agency goes, we're now going to charge you for that engagement.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok isn't there yet, so this is the great time to get in. But Facebook used to be like that, amazing organic.
Yeah.
Twitter used to be amazing. Instagram, through the roof. They're clamping down on it because the content has now caught up with the demand.
Yeah.
As of yet, TikTok still has more demand than it has content.
Yeah.
But that's not going to last, so get going.
Yeah.
And be prepared that in 5 years, 3 years, there'll be something new
There'll
again.
be something to change. Yeah.
I always tell people though to start with whatever they're good at and genuinely like.
Yeah.
You know, if I was a B2B company and somebody told me I should be on TikTok and it's just sucking the life out of me to get up every day and think of a TikTok, don't do it. You're going to be terrible at it.
Right. Because you're
Unless it's an absolute fit and you must do it, just do what you do well. As an easy starting point, as a way to ease into it. You're all going to have to do things we don't like.
Yeah.
But if you're not good at it, it shows. If you don't love it, I mean, if you don't like what you're up to on social, it comes through.
I think that you said it really well. Align it with your goals. What is it that you're trying to do, and where are those people located? So if they're businesses, they're on LinkedIn. If they're young people, maybe it's TikTok. If they're older people, as much as people don't like to hear that, it's probably Facebook. If you have a really great visual product, maybe Instagram is for you, or Pinterest.
I've actually
or something
told
like that.
no one to work on their Facebook strategy. Facebook is I think it's impossible to make any gains in Facebook right now
Organically,
without spending a
certainly.
fortune.
Yeah.
If you don't pay Zuck, you don't show up, no matter how many followers you've got.
I'm making that a t-shirt.
I would tend to disagree with that and actually have proof. But yeah, we're doing okay.
Is that workshop number 2 from
Yeah,
Rob?
that probably should be a
Competitive
workshop.
Intelligence
Okay.
and Facebook.
Yeah, there is.
I've given up on Facebook, so you can convert me because I love. Honestly, my whole business was based on Facebook. I loved it. We got to about 124,000 followers, and had huge engagement. And then overnight, and then it started coming
They
through the
changed
feeds that
something.
the algorithm changed and
It's-
everything
it's
said.
changed.
And I was like, I was so mad. I was like, we genuinely, every single person that ever gave us a thumbs up, genuinely liked us. We never bought a follower. We never used a lead generation, anything. Like we built it homemade.
Yeah.
I was so angry with Zuck. And I'm still a little bitter.
I have one of those right now that I've been growing organically. Nope, it just hit 4.3. So it still works. It's
Rob knows what's up.
It's not a competition, Rob.
no.
I mean, it is. A little bit.
We just met.
We're not in competition.
Yeah, we're not. What I'm saying is, you're absolutely right, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was like 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
Everything changed,
Yeah.
and the best part of it is they didn't tell us.
Correct.
So we had to figure it out with a whole bunch of pages.
As the whole internet went wild too, though. So
Yes,
it
and
didn't
then
take long.
Instagram shut off their API, and then groups started working better than pages did, and flipping back around. And the thing I'm helping Snap P run right now is the verification course, which if you haven't done that, you should do that too if you're a new founder. That course is using Facebook and Instagram, and it's tough to write a course when they change the dashboard every 3 days.
Yeah.
It really is. And they are changing the dashboard every day. And now that Zuck has decided to put metaverse on the side a little bit, he's coming back to fix what's wrong with Facebook. And that terrifies me because we're going to change again.
I'll change again. And I think this video, maybe folks are watching it much, much later down the line. But right now, Twitter, a big area of conversation with Elon Musk taking over and what that might look like. And if that'll go the way of Facebook in the way that the algorithm works and the way that the advertising works.
Yeah, I think it's going to go the way of MySpace myself too.
And we have, to Tricia's first answer, you have people who are really good at text. They like writing. They should be on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then there's people who are really good at video. They like doing videos. They like doing carousels. TikTok and YouTube. I mean, figure out where you are. Eventually, you want to be doing it all. There is also some automation available, and I'm about to announce something today, but there's lots of automation where if you come up with content, you can quite easily put it on all the channels. Mm-hmm. So consider that. There's some $20 and $30 a month software that'll do that. What's really interesting right now is Hootsuite, HubSpot, Buffer, and Sprout Social are starting to be penalized a little bit by Instagram and Pinterest.
For the reuse of content?
Or because it's coming from those sources?
Because they know the IPs it's coming from and they're saying this is automated. Oh. Even though it's original content and they're just publishing it.
It's being published.
Be careful. Do it organically first. And if you use one of those tools and you see your engagement go down, it's probably a slight penalty that they're putting on, which is insane.
You can blame the algorithm if you want, but it's not going to get you anywhere.
Matter.
You have to constantly learn. Mm-hmm. And that's the pain in the butt part of social, and the part where founders maybe get a little frustrated. But hey, if you put in the work, eventually you hire somebody to do this because it is constant re-education.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And by the way, looking at your Google Analytics, you can see that your Facebook traffic isn't what it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can identify those things. That's an interesting transition to what I know is one of your favorite topics, Rob, around email marketing.
This is your favorite
topic. So I love this topic as well. You and I get asked this question from founders all the time around how do we reach out to early customers? Can we email them? Should we email them? Where do we get emails from? How do we find people? So let's talk a little bit about legislation around email marketing first and foremost, commonly known as CASL. Give us a little bit of a quick overview. What is CASL and why does every single founder who thinks they might like to send a business development email need to know about
it? We've had a lot of conversations about this. CASL is the Canadian anti-spam legislation. It's a beefed up version of canned spam in the US. There are two people from Kitchener-Waterloo who have actually gone to jail for breaking it, a father and son. One of the first countries to actually throw somebody in jail for mass spam. It basically says you cannot send unsolicited email. So the tough way around this is you set up some sort of lead generation, you give a free report or a checklist or something in return for that email address, you are now 100% compliant. So why do so many early companies do it? Why do so many people buy lists? The speed limit on the 401 is 100 kilometers an hour. Everybody drives 125. And if you got pulled over and get a ticket, you'll be very mad. Mm-hmm. If you spam people and they click that little spam button on their Gmail or whatever, as I've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks, suddenly people are sending out 400 or 500 emails and they're getting 5 opens.
Yeah.
They're taking a different tack to it now. The ISPs are calling you a spammer and not letting your email through.
Yeah.
It's not a smart thing to do. To get around it, you actually have to do some work and do some marketing.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, even, you and I had this conversation where founders were weighing that exact situation. Am I likely to face a penalty? Being a small founder, I'm only sending a couple hundred emails. There's these, $1 million businesses doing this. Is it a risk I'm willing to take? And we always, of course, say, no, you should follow the law. But they were weighing that, will there be consequences? And now we're starting to see, even if you are small, there are consequences. And people are saying, why are my emails ending up in people's junk folders? Why are they not being delivered? And it's more complicated than just where did you get the email from. It's what email are you sending it from? Is that email an email that's used conversationally, or is it just you've set up business development at yoururl.com and it's only used for outgoing? So we actually have in the Learning Center a whole workshop that you did with founders that walks through this in detail. What's that work that you can put in? But I think the really important message to send to folks is don't buy a list, don't scrape a list, because you're likely going to do yourself more harm than good in the long term. Do the work first, and then let's talk about more legitimate ways to do some lead gen to get you those, so you get a base of legally acquired email addresses, which you can then market to.
And if you have a list of people who are willing to give their email in return for something and then engage with you on email, Facebook can go away. Pinterest can go away. If the U.S. government has its way, TikTok's going to go away. Gmail can go, all that stuff can go away. Your list of customers and really interested people is your asset.
Yeah.
And it can, even if things go south, it can, affiliate marketing, all that other sort of stuff, you can leverage an email list into revenue.
Yeah.
And you own it.
Yeah.
Unless it's spam.
Absolutely. Everything he said. Check, check, check. I just think it's not worth it. You're doing yourself more harm than good. And by not putting in the work, yeah, you can maybe go faster on the 401 and get 400,000 people, but they're not qualified buyers. It's not worth it.
Right.
And it's not worth the reputational damage it's going to do to your URL by the ISPs and everybody thinking that whole URL is garbage. They are spammers. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And it's just so, I don't know, it's very short-sighted in my mind. I'm the Laura Ingalls of the internet, I guess. But it was very valuable for us when we went to sell our business that our list was perfectly clean. And we could say every single woman, 'cause typically it was women that were signed up, we either met at a trade show, they transacted with us, they asked for this, they've continued to. So it's not just asking people to click once in the castle laws. They have to stay engaged. Yeah. That list goes bad. Yeah. There's milestones people have to hit in their customer journey with you. And it's just worth it to keep it clean because it's going to be a more valuable list. And I 100% agree. When Facebook stopped performing for us, if we were at the end of a quarter, at the end of a month, and things weren't going well, it's like, what are we going to do? Let's, you know what? Tomorrow's National Cloud Day. Let's quickly make an icon of a cloud and send it an email. Okay, boom, $100,000.
Yep.
No problem.
Yeah.
Because everyone that received, I'm just making that number up. I don't know. Every single person that received that email was genuinely interested in labels. Yeah. Maybe not clouds, but labels. Yeah.
And some will engage now, some will go away for a few months, but they come back. If they're real customers, everybody's on a parade and everybody's on a different journey. Maybe they've gone to Holland for a year and they don't need your services. But if they're real customers and real people, and you put out an interesting, entertaining, personal email once a month, once every 2 weeks, that's the other thing I'm sure that Trish will agree with me with. Different markets have different frequencies for email and things like that. Yeah. There is no, you should email twice a week. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I'm working with a gentleman right now who's really into crypto and the whole FTX thing. Yeah. Well, he's putting out 4 emails a day and he's got an 85% open rate. Yeah. So it's a market right now that people want a lot of information for. That won't last. Mm-hmm. I mean, that won't last. But right now there's so many people with all these different crypto coins and stuff trying to figure out what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So he's putting out email 4 times a day. Yeah. That won't be like that in 3 months, but there is no guide as to how much you should be doing. You do as much as you need to do as long as people are still engaging and your unsubscribing rate isn't going up. Email all you want.
The guide should be his data. Like as long as he's paying close attention, as soon as he sees the open rate start to dwindle, he knows he's got to slow down. And that's when we started building our list. We said again, face to face with women at trade shows, we'd say, "Would you like to win this KitchenAid mixer? Just sign up for our newsletter." Mm-hmm. And we'd see them look like, "I do want the mixer, but what am I getting into here?" And we'd say, "We only email once a month. Unless it's a promotion, we'll send out a second." And they'd be like, "Okay." So we decided that was the right cadence, but we just made that up. Yeah. And then we started paying attention to the science and realized, you know what? Twice a month, like as long as you're paying attention to the data, you'll figure out what's right and then revisit it constantly.
Because if you email too much, you'll see your unsubscribe rate go up and your spam complaint rates go up. And if you don't email enough, they're like, "Who's that from again?"
Well, because then they're not engaging and it ends up in junk.
Yeah.
Right, over time.
Yep.
There's a real sweet spot.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned data because I think that it's something that a lot of marketers or people who are maybe new to marketing as a founder don't necessarily think about is they look at this, all these options they could take, and they say, how do I make this decision? And the answer to that is almost always look at your data, look at your analytics, to your point, Rob, look at your social media following, and let that tell you where people are engaging.
It's a funny thing because we're almost at the point, not quite yet, but we're almost at the point where every decision you have to make in your business has a piece of data attached to it. And I mean, I don't know, 60 years ago, Sam Walton said 50% of your ad budget is wasted. We just don't know what 50% is. We now know what 50%, we absolutely know. So why are you making decisions based on feelings, emotions, and wishes when there's data that can tell you?
Yeah, and all the platforms founders will be using, whether it's your website, if you're using some sort of CRM, which we 100% recommend that all of our founders do. If you're on a social platform, all of those platforms have data that runs behind them that you can look at. And one of the things you and I talk a lot about in data is around keyword research, specifically when people are diving into the big scary world of pay-per-click advertising, whether it's paid promotion of a social post, or you're going into Google Ads for the first time, you've clicked open that dashboard and you went, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? I need Rob. What's the data that folks need to, before they come to you and say, let's run a pay-per-click campaign on Google, what's the data that they should have set up, and how should they have kind of looked at that before they say pay-per-click is for us?
Pay-per-click from Google and Google Analytics marry together very nicely. The perfect example is somebody's trying to bid on the word dog. Nobody that types the word dog into Google is looking to buy a dog.
Yeah.
They're starting their
They're looking
research.
for pictures of dogs.
Right. So when it comes to pay-per-click, great way is there's tools like SpyFu that you can use and find out what your competitors are bidding on, and find out what you don't want the most expensive keywords. You don't want the ones that have nothing. What you want is commercial intent. So if somebody types in this keyword, with that keyword, lead them to our homepage or our landing page, and is our landing page the answer to the question that those keywords are? Keywords are always a question. Your landing page is an answer. And the most important thing with running a Google Ads campaign is to set up your tracking, and then the keyword phrase, the landing page, and what you're offering them has to be congruent. It all has to match. It has to be, if somebody's looking for this, they click this ad, and they get what they expect to see.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. A lot of times folks will go in and they'll start a pay-per-click campaign, put up one landing page, attach it to 7 different ads, all of which have different messaging and different value propositions, thinking I'm just going to use this one asset. And then one of those ads performs well and the other 6 are a big waste of money. So I think that's a great point that you made, is that you really have to line those things up and look at, is my question and my answer lining up, and then use that data to say, this is what's working and this is what's not. And it's a living, breathing thing that you need to be in and looking at on a regular basis. You don't, January 1st, I set my Google ad, and in July, go in and say what's going on. It really is something that you need to kind of, at least at a surface level, have a sense of what's going on.
As the market changes, your ads have to change. In Facebook and Instagram and some of the other social channels, your ads burn out quickly. And you can see that in the data as well. You need to switch up Facebook and Instagram ads much faster than you do Google. If you're going to set up a Google campaign and test it by sending traffic to your homepage, you're wasting money. There should be a singular purpose for every keyword and every landing page.
Awesome. And that's a lot of work to put
It
all
is.
those things together. And you definitely need an expert. So it's something to, when's the right time to do that? And Ellen and Hannah spoke, when we spoke with them, a bit about agencies and outsourcing marketing. And I would love to get your perspectives on that as well. They come from the strategy and messaging end. You guys much more from the tactical digital marketing end. So if I'm an entrepreneur, I've been slogging through this for months and months and months. I'm not a marketer, but I'm doing my best. Maybe now I have some money and I'm starting to think about, I'm going to have someone do this. A lot of times our founders will go, a co-op student sounds great. And we typically advise against a co-op student being your first marketing hire. But what would your best advice be to somebody who's, I'm ready to make a marketing hire? Who should that marketing hire be? Should I use an agency? Should I use a fractional person? Should I use a freelancer? What's your best advice for outsourcing?
Best advice for outsourcing. Gosh, I really think it depends on the stage of the business. I've done it all. I've done freelancers, I've done co-op students, I've done agencies, and I eventually hired in-house. And that's my favorite. Having somebody in-house that just lives and breathes the brand and listens to all the conversations the other marketing people are having, invaluable. But that is expensive. But I think agency was probably our best experience. And especially as a startup, if you can build a relationship with an agency where they understand where you're at, and they're not, maybe you'll get in on some sweet startup deal. I don't know if that still exists, but that's certainly what we did. And we grew with an agency to a point that, eventually we realized what they were doing wasn't working. And I don't know, we parted ways, but an agency gave us enough people with enough different perspectives. If you're dealing with one person, one perspective, and maybe they don't get re-educated in the way that an agency that is going out looking for new business constantly, they need to stay up on the latest and the latest and the latest. And I have a little more faith in the agency model. But stepping back before hiring, I think it's important. If any entrepreneur says they're not in marketing, they are. If you're starting a business, I don't care what business you're starting, you're marketing it. You have to. So I think I think it's a little terrifying for people to just outsource marketing entirely without understanding it. I think for a period, you should run your own pay-per-click. You should run your own Facebook. You should at least understand it.
And Rob, I know you have a little bit of a different perspective on working with agencies. Can you tell us a bit about maybe the flip side?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with what Tricia did and why she did it. So it's not really a disagreement, but I think a lot of people that we have come into the AC decide they don't want to do marketing, so they're going to hire an agency. And then they start looking at the price instead of the quality or the expertise or whatever. Tricia was the marketer. I mean, she did the ads, she did social, she did whatever needed to be done. And I always think of it like, if I have somebody come in and fix my bathroom and redo my bathroom, I want to know that those pipes are soldered behind the walls, and I want to know enough to know that I should know if those pipes are soldered. So I think whether you're a founder who's never done it or a little bit, you should do enough to know how to evaluate it, or you will be robbed blind. I used to have an agency. I got rid of the agency. Most of our time and money in that agency went to getting new customers. Mm-hmm. And if we set up a campaign for somebody and it was okay, it would run for months and months and months and months. Yeah. You want somebody that you can be proactive with, who's in front of you, who's constantly trying to beat everything. For example, let's talk about an AdWords agency. An AdWords agency will take a percentage of what you spend as their revenue. Mm-hmm. If they were to bring your prices down, bid on less keywords, and get you better results, they would charge less money. Yeah. They have no incentive to do that. So, of course, somebody who's really talented, who's looking for maybe a part-time job that will take ownership in their work is probably the best. An awful lot of freelancers, outsourcers, the Fiverr people, yes, is a waste of your time. They've read one book from ClickBank in 1997 where they think they'll stuff the footer and get you some traffic. You got to be very, very careful, because you can ruin your brand. You can ruin your URL. You can ruin your domain. So I agree with what Tricia's saying. If you can bring somebody in who loves your company and they were willing to learn it, it's going to take a while, but it's probably the best way to do it. But you probably have a limited budget anyway. Yeah. If you can afford a really good agency, get a really good agency. But bottom, don't cheap out when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, less expensive is not necessarily better. You get what you pay for.
I don't want 3-day-old sushi because it's cheap.
It's an excellent analogy. So the last thing that we're going to talk about before we close is another topic that I think people get overwhelmed by. They don't really understand it. They don't understand what it means, but it's actually quite simple, which is SEO, or search engine optimization, and content strategy. So Rob, can you talk a little bit about SEO? Why should I care about keywords? We talked a little bit earlier, just before we recorded, how much work good keyword research is. But let's talk a little bit about keywords and how that integrates into an SEO strategy.
So you find a high commercial intent keyword like, we're talking about dogs. So chocolate lab breeder in Cambridge. If somebody's looking for a chocolate lab breeder in Cambridge, they've got their credit card out. So that's a great keyword. You then write an article about that. That's your content, goes on your blog, Medium, wherever you want to put it. And the way it's set on the page, the H1, H2 tags, title tags, the the interlinking within your site, the type of content, LSI, which stands for latent semantic indexing, which is just generally, if you're talking about Tiger Woods, there's probably going to be the word golf somewhere on the page. So Google looks at all that. But your on-page content and your on-page SEO is only about 11 to 15% of SEO. The search engine, especially Google, Yahoo and Bing too, are popularity contests. Mm-hmm. If you have high authority websites, high authority domain rank, page rank, trust flow, there's all these different metrics, but it really means, is it TechCrunch or is it Wally's home garage? If it's TechCrunch and it's pointing at your page, that adds as a vote to your page. The person with the most good backlinks wins, period. Yeah. It just takes a long time.
Yeah, we've got some great content in the Learning Center that explains in detail what is SEO, how does it work, and essentially it's the algorithms and the math that is being used by Google primarily to determine what's the most likely content that this person, based on what it is that they're searching for, is going to be looking for and that they're getting value for. So it really is a strategy which is serving your customers. So it's worth being engaged in it and taking the time to look at it and to think about it. But again, it's something that takes that effort to go in and really understand, how do these platforms work? How does my website interact with that? Backlinks, I think, is a great thing. We should talk about it as well, what the value of those are. We talk people a lot. They'll say, I have all these backlinks, but if they're low quality backlinks, if they're not coming from sources that have authority, maybe they're not as valuable as just one or two really great organizations writing about you in a blog. So thinking about those things strategically, do you have maybe some things you can share with people about how do I get those really good backlinks that are valuable, that are contributing versus, I've got a link on a register somewhere that maybe has no authority or it doesn't get traffic.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to get good backlinks. Mm-hmm. The major publishing networks, New York Times, Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, they used to give you links in your articles and they would be do follow, which means some of their domain authority would pass to your website. Mm-hmm. All the publishers have stopped that. Yeah. Which means you get no SEO value from a PR anymore. And then people can't understand why PR is less important than it used to be, because if you could get Globe and Mail to write about you, you'd have a link for life that would help you with your SEO. Mm-hmm. Now it's no follow, which means they're not passing any of that along. Yeah. The really interesting thing is the change Google made about 7 or 8 years ago. I used to be able to rank for some pretty tough keywords in about 90 to 120 days. I could rank very quickly because I was building links at the speed of sound. Google now makes it that you're probably going to wait 9 months to a year to rank.
Yeah.
So when people are like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do if it's going to take that long to rank? They go to Google AdWords because they need that initial stuff. From the Google point of view, we're going to get them to pay for it before we give it to them naturally. Yeah. So from a smart point of view, the thing to do would be run a Google AdWords campaign to see what keywords actually turn into sales and then do SEO for those. Yeah. So you're not spending a year working on a keyword that doesn't provide a sale.
And again, we're talking about using that data that you're collecting through all this work that you're doing to help you decide what to do next. And when you are writing a blog post or creating a video or any kind of marketing that you're doing, that you're integrating those keywords so that Google can find it and make those indexed connections between what you do and what people are searching for.
100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. This is a really great conversation. And hopefully it's gotten our early stage founders thinking about tactically, how do I go about starting my marketing program? And I can certainly reach out and meet with you guys individually or meet with you guys together to kind of create co-strategies on their marketing plans while they're in the program. And they can find your contacts in the Biz Planner and reach out and hopefully get some meetings going and get on a good path from an early stage with their marketing programs.
And we have a 2-week intensive when we turn the B2Bs into D2Cs.
Okay. I would love to see the outcome of that too.
I've got a lot of D2Cs that want to be B2B.
Other way, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Either way, it goes both ways. Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.